Today is Friday, and that means Ask Me Anything. So, ask me anything. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. Go follow me. I'm over on Instagram at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. That's when we're here. So thank you so much for being here today. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, as well as over on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you miss a live, you can watch it on replay here on IGTV. Hello to all my IGTVers out there. Thank you so much for watching the replay. You can also watch the replay over on my YouTube channel. Just type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. And then finally, you can find the official website for this show, which also has all the past episodes up there. JimmyRants.com is that website. That's also where you can show your support for the work I do here. If you love this show, you love Jimmy Rants, by all means, tell everybody you know about it. Spread the word. And you can also help me financially by clicking on the Patreon link or the PayPal link, and a donation of any amount would be greatly, greatly appreciated. All right, you guys, it is Friday. I love this portion of the week. I always look forward to coming here on Fridays and answering all of your questions, all about what you want to ask me about. So a lot of you guys follow my work. I don't beat around the bush. Let's just put it that way. I'm not ambiguous in my writing style. And so I pretty much, when I cover a topic, try to be thorough. But sometimes people are like, well, what about this? And so this is the day that you ask your questions of what about this? And I can answer things about low carb diets, keto, fasting, cholesterol, what it's like to make a live show on camera and all that. Podcasting, book writing, literally anything you want to ask about me. I am all game for that. So thank you guys for being here today. Go ahead and get your questions ready. Write them down there. And when the time comes, I will come to you. But as always, I do have a few headlines that caught my attention. All week long, I usually take one article and I read it or read the study and do my analysis and commentary throughout. And it takes up the whole time. Well, these are little short things that I think are of interest and caught my attention that I could introduce here at the beginning. Somebody on YouTube just today left me a comment on my Jimmy Rants yesterday. And they were like, I don't know why you have to do all that spiel at the beginning of your show with the announcing where they can watch and da-da-da-da-da. You just need to get right to the content. I'm like, dude, I've done this a very long time. And I know that if you don't do a spiel and you just start with the content, people will complain because they'll say, well, I didn't hear the first part of what you said. And of course, I don't want to go back and repeat what I just said. So the way I handle that is I do a spiel at the beginning. So I come on and I say, find me on Living Low Carb Man on Instagram, simulcast, replay here, replay there, go find the official website. I do all of that by design, not to be annoying. If you're on YouTube and you're watching that part, just skip ahead a minute and a half. Literally all you have to do. But this person was like, well, you need to only do that at the end. I'm like, okay, you don't understand broadcasting. I do. I know that if you go right into the content right away, that people will get mad and go, well, wait a minute, I didn't get to hear what you said at the beginning. So that lets you come in. Now, I know people come in and out of lives all the time, but that's why I do that. The thing I really hate the most, though, pet peeve time, for people that do lives, they press the button and they go, I guess I'm just going to sit here and wait till people come in, and I'm going to be so awkward about it until they get here. Oh, hello, Allison. Oh, okay. And I'm going to keep waiting, and it's just going to be so weird to watch when you watch on replay. Is this thing on? Hello? Is anybody that... Don't tell me you haven't seen that happen. In fact, a longtime fellow podcaster, and I'm not going to call this person out, but it's a longtime fellow podcaster, just started doing Instagram Lives, and they did their very first one the other day, And they did exactly what I just mimicked. So there is a method to the madness. You're getting a little bit of kind of behind the scenes of why I do the things I do. Nothing I do on any show is by accident. I do everything by design. So that's why I do that little spiel to the person that watched me on YouTube. If you kept watching and you weren't annoyed by my first minute and a half spiel that I do at the beginning of Jimmy Rants, that is why I do it. Okay, now let me get to the headlines. All right, so there's a new Gallup poll out, you guys, and they wanted to know, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And so Gallup just did a poll of Americans. The poll was conducted September 14th through the 28th, so just about 2 weeks ago. And what they found was a majority of registered voters, 56% of them, said that they are better off now than they were 4 years ago. 32% say they are now worse off. If I had to put a quantification on it, if I'm better off today than I was 4 years ago, of course, that's also very subjective. Are we talking just from a financial standpoint? Are we talking about from a quality of life standpoint? Are we talking about happiness? I don't know what the judgment call is. I guess it's extremely subjective. I guess I would say I'm not worse off than I was 4 years ago. So that's good. But I thought that was interesting. 56% of registered voters said they are now better off today than they were just 4 years ago. Very, very interesting. When Gallup does a poll, they don't mess around, and that was really, really fascinating. So we know the nursing homes have been on lockdown, right? So in Colorado, there are a group of residents in a nursing home that are protesting having to be locked down. They had signs that read, "I'd rather die of COVID than be lonely." Oh. And "We are prisoners in our own home." So they staged their own anti-lockdown protest along the busy street in Greeley, Colorado, directly across the street from the largest and longest operating hospital in the state. They want freedom and they want our families back, because these poor people have not been able to see their families for months. So apparently the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, as well as the governor, placed mandates that do not allow nursing home residents to see anybody, loved ones, friends, nobody. And so they created this protest, and they lined up their wheelchairs, and they were holding up these signs. It's sad, you guys. It's so sad, because in the article, they talk about one of the nursing home administrators saying there have been more deaths from the depression than there have been from COVID-19. And it's the isolation that's killing them. It's just incredibly sad. They can't live out the last little bit of their life with their family around them. If I had a grandma in a nursing home, I'd be like, "Come lock me up. I'm going to see my grandma." Now, I would have the mask on and I would socially distance, but I would be there for her. What they're doing to families with these actions is just unconscionable. And then good for them in Greeley, Colorado, saying enough is enough. We want to see our family. I saw a video the other day where this grandma was in her nursing home room, and it had a window that she could look out of. And so her family came up to the window and they could talk through the glass, but she was desperately saying, "Come in, come in, come in." And they were like, we can't. And she was just, the look of sadness and the tears broke my heart. But that's the reality right now. It's unfortunate. Yelp. Have you ever left a Yelp review before? Yelp is probably the most well-known if you're reviewing a company or if you want to check out a company to see what their customer service is like. Usually Yelp reviews are quite brutal in their honesty, partly because of the anonymity of the internet. Anybody can say anything. The only thing I don't like about it, and the same goes for like Amazon reviews, anybody can write a review. And so if you say something that's controversial, like a doctor or something, or some video goes viral and people don't like what you said in the video, they will go leave a Yelp review for your business and make you look bad. And so unfortunately, there's no recourse for that. But there is a news story here. Actually, this is straight from Yelp's website on their blog.yelp.com. New consumer alert on Yelp takes a firm stance against racism. They say at Yelp, we value diversity, inclusion, and belonging both internally and on our platform, which means we have a zero tolerance policy for any form of racism. We know that these values are important to everyone. Consumers are increasingly conscious of the types of businesses they patronize, blah, 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 blah. The part that got me was what they're going to do. If someone accuses a business of being racist because of some way they interacted with a customer through a review or something, Yelp is now going to put a flag on your account. And here's what they're going to put: business accused of racist behavior. That right there is what they're going to put on their account when people go to view their reviews. All it takes is an accusation. If a business is accused of racist behavior, isn't that going to discourage most black people, probably certain white people, pretty much anybody that thinks racism is a big deal in this country and a bad problem, maybe thinks there's systemic racism that exists? All of those people will just boycott that company. And then is there any recourse for the business? If the business gets accused of racism, how do they, I guess, fight it? Because anybody can make any accusation against another. So how do they determine what's legit? How do they come to the conclusion that this one is actually true or not? I think Yelp is setting themselves up for lawsuits because this can directly be detrimental to those businesses that get this label. And so they think this policy is a good idea. But if you slap that business accused of racist behavior, if you slap that label on any business, you're basically destroying their business. And what would stop someone from lying? Maybe they just give you a scenario. Maybe there's a 23-year-old black female who went to buy some clothes at some store, and there was a no return policy on the thing that they bought. And they bought it, went home, oh crap, didn't fit right, da-da-da, whatever. They come back to the store trying to return it. Even though there was a no return policy, they try to return it and they say, I'm sorry, ma'am, there's a no return policy, and so we can't refund your money and you can't return it. She then goes on to Yelp and says, this company was racist against me because I'm a black female, and so I think you need to boycott them because they were racist against me for not giving me my money back. Were they racist? Nope. Were they enforcing their policy? Yes. And yet it will be flagged as this company is engaging in possible racist behavior. You see how it works? And so it's a dangerous, dangerous, slippery slope. Don't like it, Yelp. You better fix that because you're going to cause more problems than you realize. Next one, and if you're just joining us, we are doing Ask Me Anything. This is my show on Fridays for Jimmy Rants. Basically, you can ask any question you want, so go ahead and write that down there. Get your questions ready, and when the time comes, I will come to you for your questions and answer your questions. At the beginning of this show, I always do quickie little headlines and give you my thoughts about them. This next one was funny. Some jail guards are now charged for reportedly forcing the inmates to listen to Baby Shark for hours. You know the Baby Shark song, right? Alexa, play Baby Shark.
Baby Shark. by Pink Fong on Amazon Music.
Play, play, play. Alexa, stop. It's annoying as hell. Like, nobody wants to listen to that song. Unless you're 3, and even then, you have a limit. And if you're a parent of a young one, you have heard that song a million times, I'm sure. Well, this children's song became an instrument of cruelty at an Oklahoma County jail. On Monday, 2 former Oklahoma County jail guards and their supervisor were charged with several crimes for forcing inmates to stand for hours while listening to Baby Shark at very loud volumes. Both of the inmates, 21 years old. So they're 21 years old, forced, or the jail guards, 21-year-old jail guards forced 4 of their inmates to listen to that song over and over and over and over at loud volume, standing alone, handcuffed to a wall. They couldn't go anywhere. There were at least 2 inmates who were forced to stand for 2 hours. The investigators said the song was put on a loop in order for it to play repetitively aloud, thus putting undue emotional stress on the inmates who were most likely already suffering because they had to stand for 2 hours. The playing of the music was said to be a joke between the guards so that it would teach them a lesson. So anyway, they're calling it psychological torture, and these guards are now being reprimanded. I can think of worse things they could do. I remember a few years ago they were complaining in Guantanamo Bay of like waterboarding inmates. I think Baby Shark at high volumes while you're standing up handcuffed to a wall is a lot less egregious than waterboarding. So not fun. I'll give them that. It wasn't fun, but enough to get these guys in trouble? I don't know. All right, let's do a few more. Maybe 1 or 2 more. The USDA, you guys, is now allowing chicken. Listen, do you like chicken? Listen to this carefully. The USDA is allowing chicken to be produced from diseased birds. It's happening. The meat industry has seen a significant deregulation in the midst of COVID-19, which is now allowing the sale of chicken meat made from birds that have had disease. And yes, it's the ones for human consumption. There was a Bloomberg report in July that said the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service has accepted a petition from the National Chicken Council that allowed slaughterhouses to process birds that had this thing called avian leukosis. Basically, it's bird cancer. Not only will inspectors not be required to examine the first 300 birds of each flock for the disease, but processors will also be allowed to just cut off the tumor and then process the rest of the bird. Are you okay with this? Because a sick bird becomes a sick human. And that's for real, you guys. This is actually in MSN.com. New USDA ruling allows for chicken to be produced from diseased birds. I think they're just asking for it. We always talk about the recalls of like spinach because it got E. coli or something on it. This is an actually diseased bird. And those of you that eat carnivore and keto and you love your chicken, that chicken you're eating may have had a tumor cut out of it on its way to being packaged. I'm not trying to scare you or anything, but the USDA just admitted they're allowing that kind of thing. And I think knowledge is power. You need to know about those things. All right. So, do you think you're seeing a lot more drug ads on television? You are. And it's because, again, the FDA is allowing it. And so, according to Kantar Media, a firm that tracks media, multimedia advertising, there was over 750,000 ads for drugs in 2016. That's 65% up from just 4 years prior. TV ad spending by pharmaceutical companies has now more than doubled just in the past 4 years. It's the second fastest growing category on TV. So we all see that. Ask your doctor, all those ads. They're higher than ever. Which kind of tells you, it's like, okay, if it's a good drug, isn't it good enough to just have your doctor recommend it? But no, these pharmaceutical companies are very wise. They know they have to heavily market the doctors and make sure that they carry and prescribe the drug. But they also need to heavily market the consumer, so the consumer goes, oh, I have those symptoms, I want that drug. And then they go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, well, it just so happens I do have that drug. Here's some free samples. Go fill the prescription. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching for the pharmaceutical companies. That's their business model. So most likely you've heard ads for Lyrica, which is for diabetic nerve pain, Humira for rheumatoid arthritis, Eliquis, which is an anticoagulant to treat blood clots and other prescriptions. Guess where they advertise the most? Drama and news shows. The ads, which once focused on treatments for chronic but generally non-fatal conditions, have now turned to even more serious ones. Used to, it was for allergies and acid reflux and whatnot, and most famously with Viagra and Cialis, erectile dysfunction. Now it's things like cardiology and cancer. So if you're seeing a lot more ads, it's not a mistake, you guys. You are seeing more ads for drugs, and they're gotten ridiculous. One of the things that they're allowing them to do, though, is not list all of the side effects. Used to, they'd say, this drug may cause hemorrhoids. It may cause you to feel faint in the heart. It may cause you to want to desire every carbohydrate known to mankind. And oh yeah, you might just die from taking this drug. They do all that like litany of the side effects. They say nobody was listening to that when there was all that. So now they're allowing them to only point out the ones that are the most crucial, like the ones that are obvious that happen. The serious and actionable ones, as they say. So you're not hearing things if you think you're hearing more drug ads now than ever before. It is happening. All right, let me stop that for now. I'm going to come to you guys here in just a second. I did have one question come in ahead of time, so let's get to that one, and then we'll get to your questions here. Thank you for being here today on the Ask Me Anything episode of Jimmy Rants. All right, this question came in. Other than keto and sleep, what is the most important healthy habit that you have? Very intriguing question. Thank you so much for asking that one. Keto obviously is the foundational nutrition. I don't think everybody needs to be keto, but it certainly is not harmful to anyone to eat keto. So I would agree that is a good foundation. And getting good sleep obviously is always good as well. I think the most important thing outside of those two things, as far as a healthy habit goes, has got to be stress management. If you're not putting into place ways to deal with your stress, that stress cannot manifest in any other way except physically and emotionally. It does. Physically, psychologically, it messes with your mind. It actually impacts pain and the development of disease, because when you are stressed, you're raising cortisol, raising blood sugar, raising insulin. Your body gets all off. And so if you're not dealing with stress adequately, you're not going to be healthy. And I'll tell you guys, I have very deliberate activities I do in my day that let me de-stress. Number one, if I start to feel stressed, I immediately disconnect and go do things. I've got a hot tub back there. I've got a massage chair. I've got all kind of little toys over there in my other building that I engage in deep breathing and all the things to try to get back into alignment again, so that stress isn't overwhelming. And this year's been challenging, not just with COVID and all the everything, but some of the personal things I've been talking about in my life. Going through this year, you gotta get that stress under control. Now, some people are like, well, I can't escape because I've got a screaming 3-year-old and I've got a husband that has needs and I have a da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You find the time. You back away, you find the time. It's why on the weekends I kind of veg out a bit compared to how hard I work during the week. And it's why I'm going to be going away a little bit later in the year in the months November, December. I know my limits, and I know if I'm not taking care of the stress part of my life, I could do all the best keto in the world. I could try to focus in on my sleep, could do movement and all the things, and none of it will matter if I'm not handling the stress well. You almost have to look at stress like you do carbs. If you're a low carb keto dieter, stress is the equivalent of eating a big bolus of carbs. So every time you allow your body to be stressed without handling that stress well, you're basically eating 100 grams carbs. Just think of your biggest treat you could have, some sugary, crappy garbage food. You just ate that when you allowed yourself to be stressed without dealing with it. So that would be my answer. But thank you for your question. Okay, you guys, your turn. You need to ask me your questions. This is Ask Me Anything. Got a lot of time left, all the time in the world you want. Fridays, we just go super long if you want to go. But ask me your questions, and I'll come here first to Instagram, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you so much for being here today. JimmyRants.com is the website. Keto Court says, the first question, any good podcast about trauma and mental health? I don't know any specific podcasts on trauma. As far as mental health and mindset goes, Brene Brown has a fabulous brand new podcast. If you're not familiar with Brene Brown's work, go look her up. Brene, and then last name Brown. Look up Brene Brown. Amazing woman, and she has some incredible experience with this topic you're asking about. So definitely go look her up. She would be my go-to if you're going to listen to a podcast about this. But quite frankly, there's not really a good podcast just on that subject, and I'm not sure why, or at least it's not on my radar screen. Trust me, I would love to be a part of one of those kinds of podcasts. And if I find one, I certainly would share about it with you guys. I find a good one. And most certainly, I don't think there's any that have a male. It's kind of weird when you're a male and you start talking about childhood trauma. You're kind of the ugly duckling, sore thumb sticking out because it's very rare. But that's who I'd say. Brene Brown's new podcast. I don't remember the name of it, but just type in Brene Brown in a podcast search and you will find it. David says, I have 599 Yelp reviews. Well, I hope none of them accuse you of being a racist, David, because it could ruin your business. And Joshua says, yeah, this is the way to crush small businesses. It will. It really will. David says, what they're doing at Yelp is insane. It's very dangerous. Yeah, it's not fair. I would say there's going to be a lawsuit from that. There's no way you can label a business racist just because of an accusation. In a court of law, any accusation has to be proven with irrefutable evidence. And if it's not, the accusation does not happen, and you're compensated for any damage that happens from that accusation that happened. Libel and slander is a thing. Yelp, what are you thinking? You're going to get in trouble from that. Crystal has the next question. I just finished your book. Why does it say cream, milk, and MCT are okay in fasting coffee? So you are referring to my book with Dr. Jason Fung called The Complete Guide to Fasting. Dr. Fung, why does it say milk, cream, and MCT? If you read the book carefully, he talked about a splash of milk, a splash of cream, just a touch of those things. He's not talking about gobs and gobs and hundreds of calories worth. The definition that we put in the Complete Guide to Fasting, when you're fasting, if you need something in your coffee, is to have less than 200 calories worth of those things you just mentioned. So I personally think if you're going to fast, and this is where Dr. Fung and I disagree, he thinks, okay, give people the flexibility by having the splash. My thing is splash becomes splash, and then people end up getting more calories than they think they do. and that's detrimental to your fasting. I'm a big fan of water only with salt and electrolytes fasting. So that's why it says that. It says a splash, but splash is so subjective. People definitely can break the rules and, well, I'm going to have a splash of cream, and then they get into trouble. So that would be the problem. But thank you for that question, Crystal. David said Bob Dole had the best ED commercials. Yes, good old Bob Dole. God rest his soul. Those of you youngins, you don't know who Bob Dole is. He ran for president in '96 against Bill Clinton. Go on YouTube and look up Bob Dole ED commercials, and you will get a great laugh. Yes. Keto Court says we talk about trauma causing the manifestation of disease and autoimmune. How would you help people realize they can reverse some of it with all the lifestyle changes we know help? How would you help people? Well, number one, you got to get people to deal with their trauma, because it's not just a matter of eat better, biohack, get good sleep, de-stress, red light, movement, all that. It's not just a matter of the physical things you do. You've got to work on all that mental stuff first. Realizing the trauma, sitting with the trauma. My interview just yesterday that aired on the Real Talk podcast, Carmen Hunter, which is a bonus episode, by the way, over on YouTube. Go watch it as a Jimmy Rants bonus, or at llvlc.com. You can listen to the podcast with Carmen Hunter. But we talked about that, where the physical manifestations of trauma, they show up. But you can't deal with the physical manifestations until you deal with the mental part of why you're reliving those things over and over and over. And with trauma, with childhood trauma and any traumatic event in your life, it's not the event itself that's traumatic. It's what happens after that event. So the event is the flashpoint by which the trauma began, but that trauma can last for years after. So I've talked very openly from 14 until 17 and a half. I was abused physically and mentally by my dad. And from the time I got out of the house at 17 and a half until 32, I literally was looking over my shoulder thinking my dad was coming to get me to kill me. And so I was kind of dealing with a lot of that. And then from 32 until now, until like last year, I've been dealing with, okay, I kind of came to terms with it, but was still trying to deal with some of the mental parts of it. Hired a life coach who's a licensed therapist last year, really helped me kind of think things through. I found out some things last September about my childhood that I didn't know, and then I revealed to my mom, who had no idea that my dad had done that to me. So a lot of healing has taken place for me. And so once you do that head work, and once you put in the work to deal with the trauma, then is when all of these things that I've been talking about with the lifestyle changes that you're talking about here can start to help. But don't put the cart before the horse. You really have to deal with the trauma, and then these physical things will work. But thank you for that question. Joshua says, I like Brene Brown a lot. Yes, she is a wonder. And she's gotten a lot of accolades for that. Very well-known, best-selling author. In fact, when I pitched writing a book about like childhood trauma and stuff, they're like, well, we don't really see anybody out there that's written much except for this Brene Brown lady. She kind of talks about those things. She's literally the only one. I'm like, Jimmy Moore can be the next. I'm not saying I'm Brene Brown, but I can certainly add to the category, but they weren't convinced. So I'm thinking, you guys, that my next book, if I'm going to write about childhood trauma, I'm going to have to be an independent author again. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. I want to write about childhood trauma and some of the things I've dealt with personally, interview a lot of people about that, basically do the Jimmy style of writing. I don't know when that's going to be. Hopefully in 2021, I can at least get started on it. But obviously you guys follow my work. You'll be the first to know. Joshua says, Dare to Lead is great. Yes, go read Dare to Lead. That's a great start. Listen to her podcast, all the things. Thank you, Instagram. I'm going to pop over here now to my YouTube channel or Facebook channel. I keep calling you YouTube. Hi, YouTube. You're Facebook. You're YouTube. You're Instagram. I'm Jimmy. Now we know each other. Okay. What's up, Facebook? I'm going to see what you guys have to say here. Mitzi says, are you taking the rest of the year off on a planned vacation? So, Mitzi, thank you. Yes, November and December I'll be completely away. I'm not going to do any Jimmy rants. I'm not doing any podcasts. I'm not doing any social media. I'm going off the grid. Basically, 2 months of what I did last year, going away on 6 months sabbatical. I'm going on a 2-month sabbatical away. A lot of reasons. Obviously, I think post-election is going to be crazy. I don't want to be anywhere online with all the everything that's going to be happening in the world because of this stupid presidential election. So that's one. I'm also going through a very, very difficult personal thing in my life right now. So that will give me a chance to kind of deal with some of that stuff. I do want to go see my mom and my sister in Florida, so I will be planning to travel them. I don't have any real plans other than just not doing my work. So today is the October the 9th. So I've got 16th, 23rd, and 30th. And then the next day is the 31st, that Saturday, and then I go away. And honestly, you guys, I don't even know when I'm going to come back. Like, I have a goal to come back in January, but I don't know. I've learned a long time ago, and definitely with this sabbatical I did last year, you don't want to rush the healing process. Because if you're in the midst of going through trying to chill, trying to make sure things are good in your life, if you put a timetable on it, it's kind of like the people that say, I want to lose 50 pounds in 6 months. Okay, well, what happens when 5 months gets here and you're only at 30 pounds lost? And then you get to the 6 month, and at the end of that, you're at 35 pounds lost. Did you fail? No, you didn't fail. But in your mind, you're like, oh, I should have gotten to 50 pounds lost. But what happened was you didn't give yourself enough time. Push it to 9 months and you've lost 50 pounds. And so that's the way I'm taking the approach with this is I'm planning on 2 months off. And I would like to come back in January. But if I find I need a little bit longer, I'm going to go a little bit longer. And I think you guys appreciate that. You probably respect it because I got to take care of me. And this has been a very, very trying year for me personally, professionally. We're going to come back strong. Don't, you guys know me well. I'm not going to sit here and wallow in my pity, but it has been a tough year, but I will come back stronger and better than ever. I will. It's just not worth getting upset about. But yes, that's where I'm going, Mitzi. Thank you for asking. Candace says, where do you draw your drive to keep going and fighting for humanity and spreading love? Sometimes it can be exhausting. I admire you taking a break and collecting your priorities. I'm proud of the work you do. Thank you, Candace. I love people. I love showing the kind of compassion and kindness to others that I so desperately crave from others. That's where it comes from. And I feel like there's such negativity in the world. There's such ugliness. There's such hatred. There's such division that when you don't engage in any of those activities and in fact become the antithesis of all those activities, you stand out and people notice and people get encouraged and don't give up. Because I've had many people say, I stopped following everybody online except for you and maybe a couple of other people. And I'm just honored by that. Like I realize people's mental capacity can only just hold so much of all the things that you're describing. And it is exhausting if you engage in it. Here's the thing. I don't engage in it. I had somebody on one of my Facebook pages today tried to go way, way political on a post that I wrote that wasn't political or anything, but he made it political. So what did I do? I blocked him and I deleted his comment. I don't have time for that kind of thing in my life. And quite frankly, life is too short to be caught up in that game. So my encouragement to you is, okay, yeah, you can let it exhaust you and you can let it drain you of all the energy because you engage in it. But is it adding value in your life? If something's not adding value, it means it's sucking life out of you. And I don't know about you guys, I don't need anything sucking on me any more than already sucks right now. And so don't do that. Don't engage. And if you see somebody trying to engage you in that way, block delete is your friend. And don't feel afraid to do that. I do it all the time. You should see the number of people I block delete every single day across all my platforms. And people are like, well, you should be allowed to talk. Not in my house. If you're on my social media page, you're on my Facebook, my YouTube, on my Instagram, wherever I am, and you say something ugly or anything, you're going to get your butt kicked out of my forum, and you're not going to be allowed to come back in again. That's my rules. And that's the way you have to handle it. Now, the good news is that helps you weed out the people you don't need in your tribe anyway. And it lets the people know in your tribe that you don't tolerate that either. So I keep doing my thing. I keep smiling. Come on here every day on a live show. Keep doing all the work that I do. And if people don't like it, then okay, they don't have to like it. I'm going to keep doing it. So that's how I do it. Thank you for that question. All right, Marcella, are you trying to give me a mind bender? She says F parenthetical end n equals n over 2. If n is even, 3n plus 1. If n is odd, solve this. Yeah, I'm not in school anymore, so I don't have to solve that. And besides, why would I solve it when Google could do that for me? So go do a search and you can find the answer to that. No is the answer. I'm not going to answer that. It's Friday. I'm not answering hard questions. That was funny though, Marcella. Kira says, I watched The Walking Dead where Negan played an annoying song loudly to torture Daryl in his cell. Now that's funny. So maybe that's where where these 21-year-olds got that idea to play Baby Shark to those 4 inmates. Baby shark, 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 no. Marcella says, why do they advertise ED medications during a kids movie on the Family Channel? Well, you never know when you need more kids in your life. I had to field a question from my 4-year-old. What is Priapism? What does ED stand for? Excellent division. I don't know. Marcella says, I keep fidgets around for my kiddos. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I have one of those little fidget things. I bought several of them, and you just kind of twirl it around in your fingers, and it's really, it's very relaxing for the stress. Also going on a walk, says Marcella. Yes. My kids are all foster care adoptions, so they have a lot of attachment trauma. Attachment therapy was very helpful for them. Ultimately, keeping a routine is important for anyone with trauma. Good advice. Thank you for that. Kira says, why are there so many keto is dangerous articles in the news lately? I don't even know how to counter it except for some not so nice words. I'm also very sad that I'll not see you while you're on break, but wish you a good break. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to have the break, because it definitely is sorely needed. All right, so why so many keto is dangerous? Can I tell you, I have been out here. I came online after losing 180 pounds in 2004. In April of 2005, I went online with the Living La Vida Low Carb blog. A year later, the podcast, blah, blah, blah. From the time I have been online, Kira, about every 6 months, I saw low carb, high protein diet leads to, and you fill in the blank, chronic disease, death, whatever. And they did that over and over and over and over. Well, the reason you're seeing it a lot more now is keto has kind of reached mainstream level with all the popularity the past few years. People reading this crazy book, Keto Clarity. So they feel like they have to keep repeating over and over and over and over. The problem is a lot of the editorial staffs at these places, they're overrun by vegans. And so they don't like that keto is popular. They don't like that it puts meat and animal foods in a positive light. And so they're going to obfuscate the issue by trying to do these articles that aren't based on anything. You literally, and I used to on Jimmy Rants, I used to do those articles about all these negative things they say happen with low carb keto, and I corrected all of the misinformation. So if you see one of those, Kira, definitely send them to me. You know how to reach me. Send them to me and I'll take a look. But they basically say always the same thing. Oh, your kidney's going to explode. Oh, you got halitosis. Oh, your brain can't be fed if you don't give them 130 grams of carbohydrate. Oh, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And 9 times out of 10, that's what the articles all say. And they hardly ever cite any good research. You guys know I love digging deep on the studies. And when you look at the studies that they use to support these claims, they're all crappy studies that aren't even directly measuring what they're supposedly looking at. So I'm not surprised, and you should not be either. And there's definitely no sense in trying to counter it. Again, if you see something that you think I haven't addressed before, please send it my way. You know, I love digging in and looking at those kinds of articles. That's why I created Jimmy Rants. I wanted to be able to counter a lot of those kind of things when they come up. But thank you, Kira. All right, you guys, I am going to pop over now. Thank you, Facebook, to my YouTube channel. See what you guys have to say about Ask Me Anything. Ask your questions. Marie Louise wants to know, what are your thoughts on alternate day fasting compared to Omad? I think both have their place. It's really 6 of one, half dozen another, because if you Omad, you eat one meal in the day. If you alternate day fast, you have as many meals as you want on the day before the alternate day. Then the alternate day, you don't eat. And then the next day after that, you eat as much as you want, however many meals, blah, blah, blah. And the day after that, you don't eat. I think it's 6 of one, half dozen another. I very comfortably like Omad because you get long periods of fasting, which generally is about 23 to 24 hours, depending on when you time it. That's Omad. When you do an alternate day fasting, it typically is about 32 to 36 hours, maybe a little longer, up to 42 hours, depending on when you eat on your eating days. I think both are really good strategies. So just take your pick and see which one. Some people like the idea of being able to eat several times during a day and then the next day just not eat. And then the next day after that, eat several times whenever you want, blah, blah, blah. So pick your poison, so to speak, is what I would say. Both are quite effective, and we definitely address both of those in our book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. Oh no, Keto Ann says, thanks, you woke up my Alexa. Stop, I didn't say your name. Keto got rid of my 2-year-old acid reflux without drugs. Oh, that's awesome. Craig says, should I be doing Wim Hof through my nose or through my mouth? How long should my cold showers last? Great questions. So I'm not a Wim Hof expert, but from what I understand, a lot of it is sucking in air through your mouth really hard and blowing it out really hard. Now, I know people that do although if you do the blowout and you've got snot, it might kind of get gross, especially if you have a beard and just like if you've got snotty, that would be gross. So I think it's the mouth is what, like they do that really strong in, strong out. And if you do that real fast, like just those 2 or 3 I just did there, I felt a little, ooh, be careful doing that. But look up Wim Hof if you're not familiar. It's a very controversial one because Dude Man not only does that, but he does it in like an ice bath. That's a little intense. Ice bath alone, you're just trying to breathe, much less Wim Hof breathe. So, and then you said how long for cold showers? Just how long you want. I know at least a few minutes is the minimum. I can tell you I've done ice baths where I put 20 pounds of ice in my bathtub in there, and I'll sit in it for probably half an hour. I love it. Like it's a lot of fun for me. But I also tend to run hot, and I wonder if the cold just acts as a therapy for me because of that warmth in my body. It's kind of interesting. Thank you, YouTube. All right, I'm going to pop back over here now to my Instagram page, see if you guys had any other questions that came in. I don't see any. Did the cat get your tongue, you guys? Please feel free to keep asking your questions. Got plenty of time left. Let's come back to over here. My kid's psychologist praised me because I fed my kids keto. That's awesome. At Children's Hospital Boston, I have not met one pediatrician that advocates a vegan diet. No, nobody does. These are Harvard Medical School trained doctors and professors. Yes. Kira says, just because they are from Harvard does not mean they won't give you the wrong advice. Animal-based diet is the best. Saturated fat, good for us. Beef is king. Joshua says he has an app that will run you through it, the Wim Hof method. Okay, good. So yeah, go look up the app. He's got a lot of videos also over on YouTube if you type in his name. So that's good. Kelly says, thanks, Jimmy. Even if I disagree with you on a subject, you're always willing to talk about it. Thank you, Kelly. I don't want everybody to agree with me. We have to get out of this nonsensical position that we're all going to agree all the time on all things. We're not. Like, I have various life experiences and knowledge and background that's going to make my belief system be what it is. And because you have a different belief system than me does not make you a bad person, and it doesn't make me a bad person. It just makes us people with differing beliefs. I'm over all of the idea that if you say something that I don't agree with, you're now my mortal enemy. I've been talking about this in my writing a lot lately, in my posts on social media. We got to get away from vilifying someone that just believes differently than you. If they believe differently, it just means they believe differently. Doesn't mean anything more than that. So if I say that I like this, but you don't like it, that doesn't mean you need to come at me with hate and personal attacks, and vice versa. I don't think badly of you because you think the opposite of me. In fact, you guys, I prefer talking to people. I love talking to people that I have a lot in common with, but I love talking to people that are cordial, that are willing to go into a conversation and disagrees with me. And we stay in that disagreement, but not being ugly towards one another. And I'll give you a prime example. About a month ago, I wrote something about the Breonna Taylor thing. And a young black lady named Connie over here on Facebook took offense to what I said because she disagreed with it. And we started having a conversation. And never did I call her any names. Never did she call me any names. She laid out why she believed what she did. I laid out what I believe, and we had this cordial conversation. At one point, she said, "Oh my God, this is so refreshing, talking to somebody on social media without it turning into a screaming match." Now, the problem with social media, though, is you have other people that sees the conversation, and then they kind of come in there trying to stir the pot. If that happens, you can shut those people down pretty quick. But between us, being Connie, it was delightful. And I think that's the way it should be. And that's a choice, you guys. If you go online looking for a fight, you're going to get a fight. If you go online looking to be cordial and have a discussion and do all the things, don't be surprised that if you stay cordial and you stay, even though you might get attacked by someone else, stay cordial, that you might get a nice conversation out of it. So again, thank you for that, Kelly. I don't agree with a lot of things I see on a daily basis. I look at things, sometimes if I see something like that, I just don't engage. Or if it just strikes a chord in me that I say, well, wait a minute, let me add some more context to what they're saying. It's not to say that they're bad. All right. I got a call. I put it on airplane mode and I still got a call. How did that work? Did it come through the internet? That's weird. I'm glad you're still there. Okay, it looks like YouTube is still there. So I usually lose the YouTube when my phone rings, but I put it on airplane mode so it wouldn't ring, and it still rang. I forget where I was now. It was something along the lines of, I don't have to agree. And I even prefer it. But we would be a boring world if everybody believed in the exact same way. David says, seems like folks can't disagree without being disagreeable anymore. Well, I personally don't put up with that. If someone turns ugly, I just block, delete, and I'm like, okay, you don't know how to play by the rules. The rules are don't be ugly, don't be personal. And I can always tell when I've won an ideological debate with someone when they start going to personal attacks. That's when I know, okay, they have nothing else to say. They can't refute what I'm saying here. Marcella says, to put in context, I'm not an advocate for veganism for anyone. I'm actually delightfully surprised that there's progress finally made, inroads for our oldest institutions of medicine. Well, there you go. There you go. I finally had to cut out my in-laws, says Lauren, because of how they treated me and so many others, constantly belittling, making such horrible comments. My mother-in-law made fun of my PTSD. Oh my God, Lauren. Seriously. Guys, I don't know when we got so ugly in this country, but we ugly. Not we individually, but we as a culture, we as a society collectively, it's just ugly. And this political election is pointing that out more than ever before. I have never seen such vile, ugly comments. Just go on Twitter for 2 seconds and you'll see the depravity of humanity. It's sad. And it doesn't have to be that way. Disagree all you want, but you don't have to be an a-hole when you do it. RSV says, do I have to stay in ketosis constantly, or is it okay to get in and out of keto during the day? Well, I mean, it depends on what your goals are. I don't think, all right, let me answer it this way. No, you don't have to stay in ketosis constantly. And I would argue you don't. I would argue that in that morning time, for a lot of people, when they usually see an elevation in their blood sugar, you naturally kind of fall down into a lower state of ketosis, if not out of ketosis. And then as the day progresses, maybe post-exercise, maybe post a high-fat meal, maybe post a long period of fasting, you'll see an elevation in your ketones. I think we need to stop focusing so much on the ketones themselves and just focus in on the activities that would be productive for producing fat burning and that kind of thing. We like to obsess about things. Like people like to obsess about the cholesterol, but your cholesterol ebbs and flows throughout the day. Same goes for your blood sugar. Same goes for your ketone levels. All the things in your body aren't static. If you test and you get a 3.4 on your blood ketones, it doesn't mean it's 3.4 all day long. It's just 3.4 in that moment. So no, I wouldn't worry about trying to stay in ketosis. I'd just be most concerned with doing all the things it takes to make sure that you get into a healthy state with real food and all the biohacks and all the things I talk about pretty much all the time. Tom says, what helps if you're tired while you're keto carnivore? I've been carnivore for over 3 years. Tired is an interesting one because it's not always related to your diet. I would say you're tired because you're overstressed and you're not dealing with it properly, which was one of the questions I had earlier. Besides keto and sleep, what would you say is the best thing you do? It's stress management. So look to see if you've got any stress management. Are you doing any movement as well? I know you're tired, but it's ironic. Movement will empower you to get less tired over time because you'll get more sleep. You'll get more deep sleep. Are you getting sunlight during the day? So letting the sunlight hit your skin, especially your eyes, setting that circadian rhythm. And then just make sure your electrolytes are up and all of that. So magnesium, potassium, and salt, all of those could usually come in like an electrolyte powder. Look for those kinds of things. And then just kind of make sure there's no underlying issue going on. Go see a doctor if you can, a functional medicine doctor that can run some underlying labs just to see if everything is working properly in your body. Because sometimes people think they're well and then they have these advanced panels run and they go, oh my gosh, I had no idea I had adrenal fatigue. I had no idea I had some of these other things going on. So hopefully all of those things will help you out. David says, I think it has a lot to do with people marrying their identity to their politics. Yeah, I don't understand. You know, have a political view, fine. But the political view isn't you. You are you. The political view is just a reflection of the character of who you are, not identifying with that particular political view. I don't like identifying with any political anything. I just don't. I identify with values and who I am, but not specific political views or politicians or anything like that. Can kids go into ketosis? From what age can they start? Look, kids start their life as a baby. A newborn baby is born into a state of ketosis. We have to get past this idea that ketosis is somehow this dangerous thing that people go into. No. When a baby is breastfeeding, that bad boy is getting major levels of ketones that a lot of humans, adult humans, would love to have. So I don't think you purposely try to put a kid into ketosis. They naturally have higher ketone levels when you eat real food. When they eat real food, they can get away with more carbohydrates, probably upwards of 150 grams of carbohydrate in a day, and probably still be in some level of low level of ketosis because of their activity levels, because of their metabolism and still growing and everything. So I think the main thing with kids is just don't feed them junk, at least not regularly. Every once in a while, fine, but regularly, no. And then just be intuitive with them and teach them all along the way, age appropriate, of course. And when they get to a certain age, then you kind of say, okay, you want to be healthy going to adult. Here's how you fine tune it and da-da-da. And that's when you explain maybe a paleo diet, maybe a higher carb kind of ketogenic diet, that kind of thing, like a low carb diet. So, all right, RSV, you've asked me 4 questions, so I'm going to stop with those, but thank you for those questions. All right, I thought I saw another comment come in over here on YouTube. What's up with Harris and Biden pushing fear about coronavirus? I'm not going to get political. I don't think, though, that we need to be fearing it. I just think at the end of the day, when you're at this close to an election, people say and do anything as a means of getting elected. And that goes for both sides. So it doesn't surprise me since the president has made it very clear he doesn't think you need to worry about this and taking off the mask and da-da-da. So I'm assuming the reason they are taking that position is it's the opposite of what the president's doing. So again, you do whatever you have to do to get elected in a election season. So unfortunately, if that's what they feel like they have to do, so be it. I also know that those two are also anti-vaccine and because the president is the one that's getting the vaccine to come. Well, we can't have the president doing something good, so we're going to be against it. So therefore, who knows? Who knows what they really believe? It's all just a popularity contest at this point. Who can we woo the most to vote for us when the time comes? So, going to be interesting in these last few weeks. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. Thank you for all your questions on Ask Me Anything here today. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live right here on Instagram. I'm at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you so much for being here. We also simulcast over on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed a live, we do put the replay up over on IGTV just as soon as this is over. Goes right up onto IGTV. It also goes up over onto YouTube. Type in the keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, pop over to the official website. It is JimmyRants.com. While you're there, you see all the past episodes. And if you love what I do here, I would love, love, love your support. Click on the Patreon link for a monthly donation, the PayPal link for a one-time donation, and a donation of any amount would be really, really appreciated. And all of those links, you guys, JimmyRants.com. Have a great weekend, you guys, and we will be back again on Monday with more Jimmy Rants. Bye.